The content you are about to watch is not intended for children. Viewer discretion advised. Welcome back, Regretters. It's time we get back to the classics. It's time to read more of the life and times of Squidbob. This time, we are on part 14. So if you've not been caught up yet, I suggest going back in the playlist and getting caught up because a lot has happened. But this story is entitled, Can a Sponge and Octopus Handle Life's Curveballs? By Sanders Edge. Summary here says, after the incident with Squidward's former lover at the Krusty Krab, the couple work through their issues together. Just when things are starting to smooth out, life throws the family another curveball, with the kids experiencing problems at school. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Unresolved Issues. It was a week after the incident at the Krusty Krab involving Squilliam, and as much as Spongebob and Squidward wanted to chat about it, other things kept getting in the way. The kids were mostly to blame, or they would be, if they even knew that they were keeping their parents from working out an underlying issue. Between their excitement every day before and after school, coupled with homework and other family activities, Spongebob and Squidward typically fell right into bed at night, exhausted. "Sponge," Squidward said, knowing he had to address the issue that hung over them. "Can we chat about everything that happened? I don't want to keep pretending everything is fine."
"Sure, Squiddy."
Spongebob rolled over in bed to face his husband.
"Can I go first?"
"Okay," Squidward nodded.
"First off,"
Spongebob could already feel his lips starting to quiver.
"I'm sorry I accused you of cheating. That was a dumb mistake, but my dumb mind made my dumb self believe. I trust you and I know you wouldn't cheat on me. Second, I'm sorry about getting on you during vacation. It wasn't right and you were just doing your best to make sure we had a good time."
"It's okay, Sponge. I've been there." Squidward reached a tentacle out, grabbing his partner's hand. "I've had my mind playing tricks on me, making me believe things. I mean, when you said that, it hurt. But I understand. And with the vacation, I was trying to make sure that we had a good time. But you're right. I spent money foolishly."
I'm sorry I hurt you."
Tears trickled down Spongebob's cheeks. "It's really okay." Squidward gave the sponge's hand a squeeze. "I'm not hurt anymore, and I know you're sorry."
"Okay, if you're sure."
Spongebob sniffed. "I'm sure," Squidward smiled. "Now it's my turn. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my past with Squilliam, but like I told you at the Krusty Krab, you're the only one who matters. None of my past relationships mean anything. Still, I should have mentioned that I've been engaged before, although it was a farce to say the least."
"A farce?"
Spongebob didn't know that word. "Yup," Squidward repeated, not picking up Spongebob had no idea what that meant. "See, in the octopus community, in order to climb the social ladder, you need to be married, and Squilliam was just using me to move up in the ranks. He had no interest in spending his life with me. He just wanted to tell others he was married. He was even cheating on me, too."
"Oh, so a farce is like a lie or something?"
Spongebob asked, sort of getting the gist of what his partner was talking about. "Ah," Squidward sighed. "Sorry, I didn't know you didn't know that word. It means that something is absurd, downright silly, like so bad that it's funny."
"Sorry, that still doesn't make sense,"
Spongebob replied.
"How is it funny? Or maybe I'll just let you keep going."
"Yes," Squidward cleared his throat. "Squilliam was just using me to boost his position in society. It was so ridiculous that years later it just sort of humorous. Because who would use me to elevate their position? I mean, seriously."
"I would,"
Spongebob perked up.
I know you would, Squidward chuckled. But anyway, Squilliam treated me badly, verbally abusing me any chance he got. I ignored it because I was so happy someone liked me, I guess. As time progressed, it got worse and worse. Finally, one day I just sorta snapped and went snooping through his stuff. I found a little book that I picked the lock and found out he was cheating on me.
Did you confront him about it?
SpongeBob scooted closer, clearly enthralled by the soap opera-like story.
No,
Squidward grimaced.
After finding his book full of names, phone numbers, alibis, and even pictures of those he was sleeping with, I had had enough. So I grabbed my suitcase, put whatever I could fit in it, trashed the apartment, and threw the engagement ring before leaving forever. I drifted around, couch surfing from friend to friend, before I got enough money to buy my Maui. I just took a job at the Krusty Krab and, well, the rest is history.
Sorry, Squiddy.
SpongeBob reached out to embrace his partner.
As bad as all that was, I'm glad the path led you to me.
Me too, Sponge.
Squidward hugged his husband back.
I guess it was difficult because Squilliam was my only real relationship before we got together. Sure, I had dates, and even tried female octopuses for a bit, but nothing ever clicked.
I thought a handsome octopus like you would have been a Romeo. Yeah.
SpongeBob giggled.
Unfortunately, no, Squidward replied. I know you see me as handsome, but in terms of other octopuses, I'm sort of ordinary looking. But enough about me. I just spilled about my previous love life. So what about you?
What do you mean?
SpongeBob gave his partner a puzzled look.
You're it. You were my first date, relationship, kiss, mate, and love.
You're shrimping me.
Squidward was taken aback.
I was your first everything? I thought for sure you dated Patrick or Sandy or someone before.
Well, I had a crush on Patrick.
SpongeBob blushed.
But you know him. He's not the brightest, and when I talked to him about it, he thought I was going to drop something heavy on him.
Drop something heavy?
Squidward said before suddenly getting it.
Oh, because he was your crush. Got it.
Yeah, like I said,
SpongeBob continued.
Not the brightest. So after that, I didn't bother pursuing it. Plus, we're such good friends. Then there was Sandy. I had a crush on her, too. But she's a land creature, and I feel so stupid when she's around. So that fizzled.
What about Mr. Krabs?
Squidward nudged his partner playfully.
Ever get that red fever?
Squidward!
SpongeBob gasped, then let out a laugh.
Mr. Krabs only loves money. Plus, he's like 1,000,000 years old. So no, nothing with Mr. Krabs.
Thank Neptune.
Squidward jokingly wiped his brow.
For a second, I was worried you were going to tell me you had a thing for him.
You're bad, Squiddy.
SpongeBob gave a lighthearted punch to his partner.
But for real.
Squidward switched back to the topic at hand.
So, I was really your first everything? You never even had a fling in school? Kissed someone under the sea monkey bars?
You were.
SpongeBob's eyes dropped thinking back to his past.
You know about how school went. No one would touch me. Sure, I had a crush, a fish named Osiris, but he wanted nothing to do with me. So I just spent my time with Patrick and sort of gave up on trying to find anyone.
Sorry, Sponge.
Squidward gave his partner a loving look.
I forgot how shitty your childhood was. Maybe we should stop for the night? Plus, I'm getting tired and feel like a weight has been lifted off me just by talking about all of this.
You're right, Squiddy.
SpongeBob was thankful to have ended the conversation.
And it is nice to have been able to talk like this. Can you please hold me tonight, though? I feel like we've been a bit...
Without a reply, Squidward reached out his tentacles and wrapped them around his husband, pulling him close with a squeak. Chapter 2. Problems at School. After the night of their talk, This started to get better for Sponge and Squidward. Their communication was improving, and each night before going to sleep, they'd talk about the day. Most of the time it was pretty mundane, but every once in a while something would come up that would have turned into an issue if they hadn't discussed it. The improved communication was helping in other parts of the couple's life too. Both Spongebob and Squidward were happier, and their stress levels were way down. Spongebob was slowly but surely overcoming his issue of overthinking things, and Squidward had given up trying to be young again. Things were going rather swimmingly. However, as such is life, a wrench was thrown into the works when Squidward got a call from the school one day while at work.
"Hi, Mr. Tentacles," the voice said on the other side of the phone. "This is the Principal McKelpie at Bikini Bottom Elementary. You're Clarence Squidbastion's father, correct?"
"Yes, that's right." Squidward felt his stomach drop, worried at what was going to come next. Were his kids hurt? Sick? Missing?
"There's been a bit of an issue," the principal went on. "Both children have been in a fight, and as you know, the school has a zero-tolerance policy with fighting. They're both being suspended for 1 week, and I need either of you or your wife to come and pick them up immediately."
What happened? Squidward couldn't believe his kids had been in a fight and knew there had to be more to the story.
"We can discuss when you get here," the principal replied. "Please be here soon."
Enraged, Squidward hung up the phone and gathered his things. He texted Spongebob to let him know what was going on before making his way out to the parking lot and climbing into his boat. Before he started the engine, his shell phone rang. It was Spongebob, in a panic. After doing his best to calm his partner down, he swung by the house to pick up his husband. Together, the two raced towards the school. When they arrived, Squidward let out a sigh, and the two walked into the school and found the principal's office. For the life of him, he couldn't figure out what either of his children would have possibly done that would warrant a suspension. They were always such good kids and had never been in trouble before like this.
"Is Mrs. McKelpie here?" Squidward asked the secretary. "We're here to pick up Clarence Squidbastion, but I need to find out what's going on."
Just a moment, sir.
The fish sitting behind the desk sighed, clearly annoyed about being interrupted, before paging the principal.
"Mr. Tentacles,"
The principal appeared from her office a few moments later.
"please come in and have a seat. Your son can have a seat out here until we're finished."
"My son?
Squidward was confused.
I'm here to pick up my son."
"The boy standing next to you."
The principal looked exasperated at the question.
I'll have you know,
Spongebob piped up,
not only am I a boy, but I'm the father of Clarence Squidbastion.
"What's going on here?"
McKelpie looked confused.
"Mr. Tentacles, are you not the father of these children? Where is their mother?"
"Neptune give me strength,"
Squidward muttered before clearing his throat.
"No, we're Clarence Squidbastion's parents. Spongebob is my husband. The kids don't have a mother. They have two fathers."
"Oh."
The principal recoiled with disgust.
"Is there something wrong with that?"
Squidward narrowed his eyes, glaring at McKelpie. Spongebob could sense the anger brewing within his partner and grabbed his tentacle to attempt to calm him down. He really didn't want his husband to punch the principal, even if she sort of deserved it for her remarks.
"No, of course not,"
the principal responded rather curtly. "Now, please come in. We have a few things to discuss." Spongebob and Squidward followed the principal into her office and took a seat in front of her desk.
"Okay, so why are our kids suspended?"
Squidward growled, being sure to emphasize the "our" in his statement.
"Let's start with Claire."
The principal picked up a folder from her desk.
"She punched, kicked, scratched, and almost knocked a girl unconscious. The poor thing had to leave early so her mother could take her to urgent care to be checked over. With Squidbastion, he was involved in a fight with the injured girl's brother. It seemed like that might be an instance of boys being boys, though, and just roughhousing. I doubt the two are connected. Just a coincidence."
"Why did Claire attack this girl?"
Squidward asked.
"For no reason."
Mrs. McKelpie's answer was short.
"Okay, let me rephrase that.
Squidward saw right through the games the principal was attempting to play.
Why did Claire say she attacked the girl?
Some preposterous story, the principal scoffed. She claimed that the girl was making fun of her, and when she tried to get away, the girl tripped her. The girl in question is one of our brightest students and is popular with all the kids. There's no way she did this, and even if she did trip your daughter, it was more than likely an accident, and I'm sure that she would have attempted to help.
Uh-huh.
Squidward wasn't buying it.
So did any other kids happen to see this? Did they give a version of their accounts?
Of course, McKelpie replied, pushing her glasses up. The girl's friends all said the same thing, that your daughter attacked for no reason. All of Claire's friends, however, corroborated Claire's version of the events. It's clear that Claire told them what to say. She had them wrapped around her finger, I would imagine.
So you're telling me that my daughter attacked a girl for no reason?
Squidward felt his blood starting to boil.
And that there are witnesses that back up her side of the story, and you're just dismissing them, but accepting what the other kids said as fact? Am I getting this right?
Yes. McKelpie sat there stone-faced.
As for your son, he claims that the boy tried to fight him because of what Claire did to his sister. I don't believe that story since, no offense, your son doesn't come across as trustworthy.
Wait a minute!
Spongebob finally spoke up.
You're saying that Squidbastion, the quiet, nerdy octopus who's nice to everyone, is untrustworthy? You have a lot of nerve saying that to me, Mrs. Kelby!
My husband is right.
Squidward was shocked at the outburst from Spongebob, but understood.
Squidbastion is definitely not the type to lie. The kid even tells us when he forgot to do a chore. He couldn't lie if you paid him to.
You're his parents? McKelpie grimaced at the word parents. Of course you would say something like that. But you know how cephalopods are, don't you, Mr. Tentacles?
No, I don't.
Squidward slammed his tentacles down on the desk, causing the principal to jump.
Now where are my kids?
The principal led the pair to the room where Claire and Squidbastion were sitting. When they opened the door, Claire leapt up and ran to Spongebob to give him a hug while sobbing uncontrollably. That's when Spongebob noticed the marks on his daughter's face. Sponges don't bruise like other animals, but there were blotches of discolored skin that indicated she'd been hit. There were also little bits of spongy flesh missing, leaving divots down her body. And her front tooth was chipped slightly. Her dress was torn, and her shoes were scuffed as well.
Are you okay, sweetheart?
Spongebob asked, looking over his daughter.
No,
Claire cried.
Eldora pushed me, punched me, and was calling me names. I tried to defend myself, but she just kept hitting me. However, she slipped in the mud a little bit and I was able to fight back. Once she was down, I ran away as fast as I could to fight Squibby.
Son, are you okay?
Squidward looked over at Squibby, who was equally in rough shape. He had dried blue blood on his face, and his glasses were bent. His shirt was torn as well, and he had a decent amount of dried blood on it too, but it was clearly not his since it was red.
I guess,
Squibby replied, looking at the floor.
That boy, I think his name is Atlantis, came up to me when he saw Claire with me. I told Claire to run and told her to stop the boy. We ended up fighting. Holy shrimp!
Squidward's eyes grew huge.
The older boy was going to beat up Claire? Mrs. McKelpie, what kind of school are you running here where the older boy's beating up kindergarteners?
He was just protecting his sister, Mr. Tentacles, the principal responded. Now please leave the school premises. Your children won't be welcome until next Thursday. Is that understood? Squidward didn't bother to answer. He had enough of the principal and just wanted to get the kids home so they could get cleaned up. He knew they weren't at fault here, and Clara was only trying to defend herself, and Squibby was only trying to defend his sister. The family pushed past the principal and made their way out to Squidward's boat.
Are you mad at us?
Claire asked as they were seated.
Be honest with me, Claire.
Squidward turned around to look at his daughter.
Did you start the fight, or were you fighting back?
Fighting back, Dad,
Claire responded.
And what Squibby said is true, too. That older boy came looking for me and was going to beat me up. Squibby saved me because he's the best big brother in the world.
Is that true, son?
Squidward turned his attention to Squibby.
Yes, sir,
Was all he could reply, clearly scared that he was about to be punished.
Then no. Squidward's expression eased. I'm not mad at either of you. I'm proud of you, Claire, for defending yourself. And I'm proud of you, Squibby, for looking out for your sister. That principal is full of it, and I think she's covering up something. Claire, just who is this Eldoris girl anyway?
she's the popular girl.
Claire replied.
She's really mean, but is a kiss-up to all the adults.
Yeah, I know the type.
Squidward muttered as a memory about Squilliam jolted loose.
So what should we do?
Spongebob asked, wondering what his husband had in mind going forward with the children. It was pretty clear that they weren't going to be welcomed back to the school once their suspension was up, and even if they were, the sponge didn't think it would be safe.
Right now?
Squidward chuckled.
I think it's ice cream time, followed by a good bath for these two.
Ice cream?
Claire didn't understand. She'd just been suspended from school, and even if her parents were proud of her for standing up for herself, it seemed like a weird thing to do.
I think you two have earned a treat.
Squidward smiled as he put the boat into gear.
We'll worry about school tomorrow. Tonight, let's just be a family.
The two kids cheered as Squidward headed towards the Goofy Goober. Chapter 3. We're Here for You. Later that night, the family was relaxing in the living room. Squidward was trying to find out what to do about schooling and still stewing over how disrespectful the principal had been. Spongebob, on the other hand, was sitting on the ground playing dolls with Claire, while Squibby sat on the couch reading a book about outer space.
So, Claire, do you want to talk about what happened today?
Spongebob asked as he brushed the hair of the doll.
I had a pretty rough time in school, too, so I might be able to help. I don't know what I did to Eldoris.
Claire set her toys down and looked at Spongebob.
She just called me such bad names, and I was trying to ignore it. But when I didn't respond, she came over and pushed me. Every time I tried to stand up, she just kept pushing me. When she slipped in the mud, I saw my chance and remembered everything Aunt Sandy taught me. I didn't want to hurt her, Daddy, but Aunt Sandy said if you can't get away, make sure your target is eliminated. I know you didn't mean to hurt her.
Spongebob put his hand on his daughter's.
Then I'm glad we have you training with Sandy. Standing up for yourself is important. It's also important to never start a fight, but to not be afraid to fight back if you need to. Thank you, Daddy.
Claire smiled, her chipped tooth sticking out over her lip.
Did that ever happen to you in school? Sort of.
Spongebob didn't really want to get into the details, since Claire wouldn't understand.
But I didn't know how to fight back, and kids beat me up every day. That's why you're training with Sandy. Your dad and I didn't want you to end up like me. I'm sorry, Daddy.
Claire scooted over and gave Spongebob a hug.
What's so wrong about being a sponge? We're just different, I guess.
Spongebob didn't really know.
Some fish just don't like it when someone who's different is around. Well, they're just meanies.
Claire did her best to sound angry.
They are, Claire Bear.
Spongebob handed his daughter a doll.
If you ever need to talk, I'm here for you.
Claire gave Spongebob a kiss on the cheek before returning to the dolls. Figuring he should take Spongebob's lead, Squidward sat down the notepad that he was writing on and looked over at his son.
So, son, do you want to talk about what happened?
Squidward felt weird asking this. It wasn't that he was incapable of talking to his kids and helping them through their problems, but he couldn't really relate to the situation at hand.
There's not too much to talk about,
Squibby replied, setting down the book.
Claire needed me, and I protected her. I don't like fighting, but I'm glad I did what I needed to.
You really are a good big brother.
Squidward felt his heart swell with pride.
Family is one of the most important things, and standing up for your sister took courage. I mean it when I say I'm proud of you.
Squibby didn't say anything. He just stood up and walked over to Squidward to give him a hug, which made the older octopus choke back some tears. He was so happy with the kind of octopus young Squibby was becoming, especially given how some octopuses were. While the principal might have been making a rude comment, she did have a point. Octopuses really weren't the best the ocean had to offer. After a little heart-to-heart talk, the family resumed their activities for another hour before Squibby announced it was the kids' bedtime. With a few light-hearted groans, the kids cleaned up their stuff before trudging upstairs to get ready. Once the kids were tucked in for the night, Squidward and Spongebob made their way back to the living room. Normally, they'd head to bed too, but they still had some logistical things to figure out, and Squidward wanted to speak freely about the principal that had annoyed him so much.
What a day!
Spongebob flopped onto the couch.
What was with that principal?
I'm glad you brought it up.
Squidward felt his rage building.
She's a piece of work who clearly has no business running a school. How can she possibly think that what our kids did wasn't in self-defense? And those sly remarks about us.
I know, honey.
Spongebob placed a hand on Squidward's tentacle.
She really wasn't very nice, and I'm sure she was covering for that other boy and girl, too. While Claire and Squibby might not be completely innocent in all of it, I can't imagine they started it.
No, I don't believe it for a second.
Squidward took a deep breath, trying to calm some of what his building anger had become.
Do you think maybe the principal just doesn't like creatures like us?
Creatures like us?
SpongeBob pointed to himself, then Squidward with his thumb.
Like sponges and octopuses?
Not exactly, Squidward replied. I mean interspecies relationships, or even same-sex relationships.
Why would that matter?
SpongeBob's innocence was getting the better of him.
It seems like a silly thing for anyone to care about.
You know how some get with their ideas,
Squidward sighed, feeling rather cynical about the world.
Some think that species should keep to their own kind. You know, fish with fish, sponges with sponges, and octopuses with octopuses. It's an old-fashioned idea, but unfortunately one that's still held by some.
No, that can't be!
SpongeBob was still not buying that anyone would care.
Well, it's either that, or she doesn't like same-sex couples.
Squidward did his best not to chastise his partner for being so naive to the world. SpongeBob gave his husband a puzzled look. Had his partner really forgotten that he was both male and female? No, that couldn't be it. They'd had a child together after all.
Okay, I know what you're thinking.
Squidward read his spouse's expression like a book.
I know we're not technically a same-sex couple, given your unique biology, but you look and act like a male, so that's what people assume you are. Unfortunately, there are far more creatures in the world who are dead set against any kind of same-sex couple than those against interspecies relationships. I endured it pretty frequently with Squilliam. I mean, octopuses can be assholes, and for the most part are very traditional, so I always heard snide remarks about being with another male cephalopod.
The world isn't a very nice place, is it?
SpongeBob looked down at the ground, feeling some tears start to form.
I can't believe someone would hate someone else for loving someone.
Well, the world is a shitty place.
Squidward hugged his partner.
At least we have each other.
SpongeBob hugged back with a smile. Chapter 4. Making the Right Decision. As the days went on, Squidward continued to stew in anger with the principal. He still didn't really know what the reason for all of this was, but figured the most logical explanation was a bigoted principal. As much as he wanted to raise a fuss about it to the school board, he knew deep down that nothing would come of it. What Squidward did know was that he wasn't going to send the kids back to that school. It just wasn't worth it to put them in that situation. Not only would they run the risk of being seriously hurt again, but between the tormenting students and the distraction to their education, it would make their school experience miserable. While trying to figure out what to do, Squidward floated the idea of having Spongebob homeschool the kids. However, it quickly became apparent to both of them that that probably wasn't the ideal scenario. Spongebob was certainly capable, but even he knew that he wasn't nearly focused enough to manage the education of 2 kids. This left a handful of private schools to consider. However, they all had their challenges. First of all, they were expensive, and even though the family could afford it, Squidward worried what would happen if they lost their income. The second was that there was no guarantee that either kid would be accepted into school.
Okay, so we have a few options.
Squidward set down a few packets of information on the table.
The first one is a traditional private school called Coral Crest Academy. It's pricey, but the education should be top-notch. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of it, though. It seems a bit stuffy and old-fashioned. Plus, tuition is $10,000 per student per year, so it'd be $20,000 a year for us at a minimum.
Holy mackerel!
SpongeBob's eyes bugged out.
That's really expensive.
Oh, whoops.
Are there any cheaper options?
Indeed there are.
Squidward picked up another packet.
This one is called Bubbleton High and is sort of like Coral Crest, just cheaper. Still seems pretty stuffy though, and the cost isn't that much less. We'd be looking at about $14,000 a year for this one.
I was thinking maybe even cheaper.
SpongeBob grimaced.
Okay, you'll probably like this one then.
Squidward picked up the final packet.
This one is Pearlside and is sort of a new agey in approach to learning. Instead of structured classes, it's more freeform, with blocks of time set aside for different activities. They also like to focus on the arts and try to encourage kids to be creative. It's only $4,000 a year for both kids too, so that's a huge plus.
So what do you think?
SpongeBob didn't really know what to make of it. Everything was so expensive, and he worried about making the wrong choice.
Honestly, I think Pearlside would be the best.
Squidward started to flip through the packet for it.
I know I'm biased here, but I like that it focuses on the arts. Squid Bastion has really started to excel at the clarinet, and I'd love for him to have a passion for music fostered. Also, since I see so much of your personality in Claire, I think she would really do well with the structure.
Guess we should tour it then?
SpongeBob asked, still hesitant about making the wrong decision.
Of course!
Squidward smiled, happy his partner was leaning towards his preferred school.
We should probably tour one of the other ones too, just for some balance. I think Coral Crest is just based on price, so maybe Bubbleton?
SpongeBob nodded and took the packet from Squidward to look through it more. As he flipped the pages, his anxiety started to subside a bit. Everyone looked so happy in the photos, and between the bright colors, tons of unique toys, and a huge library, it looks like a great place for the kids. Of course, they'd need to check it out first, but for the moment, the sponge's mind was at ease. A few days later, the family piled into Squidward's boat and made their way to Pearlside. Luckily, they had openings and were willing to take students a few weeks into the semester, which was a positive. As they pulled up to the school, everyone let out oohs and ahs at the modern-looking building with its large windows, teak wood trim, and the colored coral that surrounded it. As far as first impressions go, Pearlside was certainly making a good one, at least from the outside. The family made their way inside, continuing to be in awe at the unique design characteristics. Considering most of the buildings in Bikini Bottom were made from discarded sea junk, it was certainly a nice change to see something made with new and shiny materials.
Hello, we're here for the tour,
Squidward announced as he made his way to the reception desk, located near the entrance to the school.
I think we're supposed to meet someone named Peter, maybe?
Ah, yes, you must be Mr. Tentacles,
a young-looking fish said cheerfully.
And this must be Squid Bastion and Claire, our prospective students. I hope we can live up to your expectations.
The fish got up from her desk before disappearing into the back room. A few moments later, a rather large, bright blue sponge appeared wearing a bright orange shirt with a lime green tie and matching glasses. Startled to see another sponge, Claire's mouth hung open and she gave SpongeBob's hand a squeeze.
Why, hello there!
the sponge said in a booming voice. "Name's Peter Peripherian, but you can call me Pete." "Nice to meet you, Pete." Squidward extended a tentacle to shake the sponge's hand.
I'm Squidward. This is my husband, Spongebob, and our 2 children, Claire and Squidbastion.
Are you really a sponge?
Claire looked on to their tour guide, mouth still open in awe. "I sure am, Mrs. Claire." Pete knelt down to get on the girl's level. "Just like you. And to let you in on a little secret, we actually have a few fellow sponges here as well. I understand in talking to your dad that you had some issues at your last school with bullies. Rest assured, Mrs. Claire, that we like sponges here." Claire's eyes lit up at the comment. Were there really more sponges just like her? "And Mr. Squidbastion," Pete turned to the young octopus. "I hear that you're quite the musician. I hope we can live up to your expectations here at Pearlside. We have a wonderful music program and some top-notch instructors. Our head music teacher is the first chair violinist in the Bikini Bottom Orchestra."
Your music teacher is Sabiki Abisu?
Squidward's heart nearly leapt out of his body.
The Japanese string sensation that brought class and refinement to the Bikini Bottom Orchestra?
The very one! Pete let out a chuckle. "I see that music and art runs in the family. But yes, Mr. E and I go way back. I met him years ago while touring Osaka Bay. Didn't know who the fellow was, but he was friendly, and my wife and I struck up a conversation with him. We've stayed in contact ever since." Squidward was already sold on the school. Having none other than Hibiki Abisu teaching Squidbastion musical theory would be wonderful for his growth as a performer. Hopefully, some of it would rub off on Claire too, and the 2 kids would become world famous someday. At least that was Squidward's dream anyway. After the introduction, the group made their way around the school. With each hallway, the kids grew more and more excited about the place, and Squidward became even more over the moon with the place than he already was. Spongebob was still a bit hesitant with all of this, though. While he was impressed with the school to the same degree to the rest of the family was, he still felt uneasy about everything. As the tour continued, Peter led the family into a room to get their thoughts and answer any questions they might have. Much to Squidward's delight, Pete focused most of his attention on the kids, answering even the most off-topic questions from Claire about sponges. If the other teachers were only half as attentive, this was going to be the right place for the kids.
Sponge, you've been awfully quiet.
Squidward nudged his partner, who was lost in thought.
Do you have any questions for Pete?
Just one.
Spongebob took a deep breath.
And I guess it's more for you, Squidward. But is this the right decision? I know I should be talking about this in private, but it's eating away at me.
Sponge.
Squidward wished this would have waited until tonight, but was happy Spongebob was talking about something right away instead of waiting nevertheless.
Look at how happy the kids are. Claire is going to be with fellow sponges and in an environment that caters to her curiosity. Squibby is going to learn music from the best Bikini Bottom has to offer and be able to pursue the arts like he wants. Is this the right decision? Who knows? But the kids seem happy, and that's what matters, right?
Right.
Spongebob looked down at the table, trying not to cry.
Is that true, Claire? Squibby, do you like this place? Yes, Daddy,
Claire squealed.
It's so cool and everyone's so friendly. I'm going to learn so much here.
Squibby didn't say anything, but gave his spongy father a toothy smile and a nod before turning back to look through the class guide.
Well, it looks like you have a new school then.
Spongebob forced a smile. He wasn't sold on the change, but Squidward was right. The kids were happy, and that's what mattered with all of this. With a cheer from the kids, Squidward and Spongebob shook Pete's hand before sitting down to iron out the details. The end! Oh man, what a way to leave us on a cliffhanger, Sanders Edge. This story is only getting better and better. I can't believe where this all started. I mean, I wouldn't mind a little bit of the grosser stuff just in case, you know? But I'm definitely not regretting this anymore. Keep it up. If you'd like to support the channel, you can at patreon.com/regretfulreads, or you become a YouTube member. You can also find Sanders Edge on Twitter. They are a very prominent member of the archive of our own Squidbob fandom. They do art and all of that, so show your support there. And if you have any fan art, you can put it in the Discord. I love fan art. It's nice. Anyway, see you next time. Bye-bye.